Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Hi, Rob Browne here with you on Savant Saturday. Got a great lineup in store for us today. Billy Roberts checks in from Brookhaven, next to Buckhead, not Atlanta. Dave Tompkins from the Low Country over in Beaufort, South Carolina, will check in with us. Brendan Martin will join us at about 30 after down in Ocala. Brendan Martin, I'm telling you what, he reminds you a lot of Dennis Miller. Don't feel alone. He reminds me a lot of Dennis Miller. He just knows more football and more sports. Also, Yancy Porter checks in from the Rebel Yell Hotline with us as well. Going to get his perspective on Quinshon Judkins. What a spoiled brat. And he's gone on to, I don't know who's going to pick him up, but I want to get Yancy. You know, he'll tell us what's going on. Look, we do this 6 days a week, 25 times a month, over 300 times a year. Repetition's the mother of all skill. You want to be good at something, practice it. It never feels like work. It's a lot of fun. Sidelines, we're talking college football, college basketball, college baseball, recruiting. We'll get into some pro sports as well. We do it year round. And you got to have, you know.
Hey, Rob, can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you. Yeah, can you hear us?
I can't hear Rob, so I might.
Okay.
But I have a new microphone.
Righty, let's leave studio. Come right back.
We're having technical difficulties. Everyone be patient. I'm going to.
All right, Dave, how's that now?
Okay, I'm going to switch out.
Yeah, you got us, Dave? Okay, we'll be right back after this quick commercial message. Stand by. All right, Rob Browne back here with Dave. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, everything's good. And let's bring in Billy Roberts. You know, every now and then we get a Blue Jay on the line. I don't know what it is. Billy Roberts there in the studio in Brookhaven, next to Buckhead, technically not Atlanta. And Billy, if there's one term people that live in big metropolitan areas hate, maybe they detest it and despise it, that's the Metroplex. So you don't live in Atlanta. You live in Brookhaven, an incorporated town of some 62,000 citizens, home of the Capital City Golf Club that Bobby Jones designed. Billy walks it backwards twice a day, one time forward, one time backwards, a 4-5 tennis player. Dave, man, what can I say about your mental acumen? From Mountain Brook, Alabama fan, West Point grad, MBA from Stanford, and disappointed in the athletic department at Stanford, what the progressives and whatever else have done out there to that athletic program used to win the Sears Cup more than anybody, and now they're not even in the deal. We're going to be joined here in about 25 minutes by Brendan Martin, who's going to be working with us a lot going forward on a lot of projects. He is the brains. He's Buddy Martin's son. Also, Yancy Porter will be with us in hour number 2. But, guys, look, TK, Jeff Tickenen, is listening right now. He's duck hunting, but he's a good friend from Chicago, a Michigan grad, and he duck hunts over here in Burnt Cane. That's not too far from Parkin, small town, of course, Burnt Cane. I think there's as many people as in his lodge. That's the population of Burnt Cane. Big game Monday night, man. And Billy, Dave, you know, all of us, we grew up, Bo Schembechler, Woody Hayes, the 10-year war. Jim Harbaugh played for Bo Schembechler. Would Bo Schembechler like Jim Harbaugh, Dave? I got to ask you, because you knew Coach Schembechler, but I'm just a fan of Jim Harbaugh because he wins everywhere he goes, and his players love him, and his players love each other, and they play with a lot of passion. And I don't know. I want your take on it. Let's get started on Savant Saturday.
Sure. Well, he won at Stanford with Andrew Luck. He recruited Luck to Stanford. He won at the 49ers. He got a little crossways with the GM and with the owner at the 49ers. And, you know, he is a very headstrong guy. My dad was very close friends with Bo Schembechler. And what Coach Schembechler told me the last couple of years while he was on Earth was that he was a big fan of Jim Harbaugh. He loved Jim's dad, Jim and John's dad, who coached at Michigan, Jack Harbaugh. And he said that when Jim was a kid, he was like 5 years old, he would be at every practice with a clipboard. He was already thrusting himself in the role as a coach. And that he just, you know, ate, drank, swam football from the time he was a toddler. And there's a great photo all around Ann Arbor of Coach Schembechler with his M hat and his earphones, and he's just screaming at Jim Harbaugh on the sideline. And Harbaugh's, you know, paying rapt attention, and it just sort of, I guess, summarizes the relationship that the two of them had. But a lot of mutual respect. At Coach Schembechler's funeral, my dad and stepmom sat next to Jim Harbaugh, and it was a very moving thing. And so, yeah, I'm a big fan. In my opinion, as an Alabama fan, I thought Michigan, and it's probably a lot was talked about this week. I thought that Michigan was better prepared than Alabama, and I think it was, you know, pretty obvious from, you know, the first series, even though, you know, we had the almost interception and then they, you know, the fumble that led to our early score. But they were dominant in the first half, and then when they had to, you know, on the last drive, they were dominant, and we got beat. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, and Billy, you watched that game on the color TV like we all did Monday night. I mean, the back-to-back college football semifinal games were the best I can remember. But did you feel like, look at the roster, Alabama, 18 5-stars on the roster, Michigan 2. Who was the better coach that night?
You know, I mean, in the moment, you know, Harbaugh had, you know, a good plan for sure. The players were hungrier, maybe. I mean, you know, the challenge any successful program has is to keep guys hungry when they've had ridiculous success. You know, that's a challenge. And Alabama, you know, inevitably has got to deal with that. They've been on top for so long. And, you know, Saban, I'm not saying he wasn't hungry, but as a coach to motivate young guys who tasted a lot of success and keep them hungry, it's a mental game you've got to play. I think Kirby Smart's going through that at Georgia now. You know, how do I get these guys to buy into last year? Doesn't matter. You weren't on that team. You've got to accomplish something on your own. You know, Georgia all year, they were trying for a three-peat. That was the mantra. You know, nobody has done that in a while, if ever, in college football. And that was what he was trying to do. So I think that, you know, Michigan being on the ascent, and every year they've made incremental steps to get to the top. You know, now that here's their moment. But they are hungry, and they don't have to manufacture motivation. They don't have to play psychological games to get the players to be motivated. And maybe that's what the difference came down to. Maybe it wasn't as much coaching as just natural. You know, I got a bunch of guys that haven't tasted success yet, but they can see it and they can smell it, and it's right there.
Yeah.
Versus the guys on the Alabama side who, you know, they've been winners forever, and it's difficult to just maintain excellence, you know, once you've had a lot of success.
And I think so. I'll have to be fact-checked on this, but I believe the last 3 times Alabama has beaten Georgia in the SEC championship, they have not gone on to win the national championship. Of course, one time they lost to Georgia in the rematch, but I believe, obviously with Michigan, and I think one of their Clemson losses came after
2018.
Georgia.
Yeah, 2018, Alabama beat Georgia and lost to Clemson 44-18 in Santa Clara, California for the national championship. And in 21 lost in Indianapolis in the rematch. You're right. Yeah. Hey, Billy, you are our tech expert. Dave, you got the Yeti mic now, don't you?
Well, I do, but because of the audio difficulties we've had the last 2 Saturdays,
it's not anything you're doing. It's not anything you're doing. But Billy, you want to put that thing on setting 3 if you've got a Yeti mic. But
that's right.
and look at it setting and just check your setting. Yeah, is that the Yeti Blue mic?
I think it is. We got it in response to your recommendation.
Billy, because Billy told me to get it, but you check your settings on it. But it sounds great. I think sometimes, I don't know when we first got on, there was a little technical issue. But okay, that's a great point. Alabama, the last 3 times they've beaten Georgia, they did not win the national championship when they played them in the SEC title game. That is a great trivia question. For both of y'all, the narrative. Ohio State, they're in trouble, and that's crazy to say that. But in the 5 years Ryan Day's been the head coach at Ohio State, he's only lost to Michigan 3 times. No one else in the Big Ten has beaten Ohio State. Is that telling you that's a weak conference? Ohio State is that strong? So what does that say about how strong Michigan is? And I think Michigan, they've got a bunch of guys, I think, that have been there for a while. A lot of 3rd and 4th year players, Billy. That is huge. Do you notice when you watch Michigan play, those guys love each other? There's not a bunch of selfish guys, with the pout face spreading the dreary wearies all over the place. I like them. They're fun to watch.
Well, absolutely. You can see that. And, that's the challenge you got even with college basketball right now. These guys don't have a time to form a team. They're together for 1 year and then people depart. And college football's kind of gotten that way a little bit. So the idea that guys have, bled and sweated and suffered together for 3 or 4 years to achieve something as a team, those days are probably over, which is a pity. But, that's the way it is right now. But, Michigan is kind of an old school, everything about them, the coach, the uniforms, screams tradition and old school. There's no fad at Michigan. They're just old school. And, they're, like I said, they've been on the ascent for a while and they've just been right there, but haven't, made it to the very top. And maybe this is their moment, but you could see it building for the last couple of years and conquering Ohio State after a long time. The narrative was, Michigan couldn't beat Ohio State and Harbaugh couldn't beat Ohio State.
Yeah.
That was a lot of criticism about him when he first got there. Could he recruit enough? He was an NFL coach. Was he going to suck up to 18-year-olds? Was he going to, put his ego to the side and kiss a bunch of ass with the 18-year-olds? But he's done it. And I, for one, didn't think he would do that, but he's become a college coach.
Yeah.
Before he seemed like an NFL coach marking his time waiting to get back to the NFL.
Yeah.
Ann Arbor is a very interesting place. Most of it is extremely liberal. And the athletic department, and in particular the football program, is very conservative and a very tight-knit family. And it goes all the way back to Bo Schembechler. You look at the coaches that succeeded him, Gary Moeller, Lloyd Carr, now Jim Harbaugh, they're all Bo guys. I don't think they'll ever go out of family for any time soon. They're just a family. When you'd be in the box in Bo's suite, which was right next to the president's suite, and we knew who actually was more in control there. All the people in there were Michigan alum, all players that used to play for him, Jamie Morris, Dan Deerdorf, people like that. It's just a real tight-knit family there at this very, very liberal college in this very, very liberal town. It's a fact. People from the South should go up to Ann Arbor and just do a little, site visit. It's just a very interesting place.
My dad's been all over that campus as an architect. Every time he's in Detroit or something, he would go over there. He said it is an absolutely gorgeous campus, and they've got a lot of money, a lot of money. They did a campaign, I remember 15 years ago, to raise $5 billion for their endowment, just in that one campaign. And, remember the opening scene in the movie, The Big Chill, that came out in the mid-'80s? William Hurt is putting on the Michigan shirt when they're running over there at, where were they? Kiowa Island, Hilton Head,
They're
somewhere
in
like
Beaufort.
that.
The Big Chill house is about 7 houses from where I live.
Yeah.
Well, Savant Saturday, leave no stone unturned. This is awesome. Okay, so I got a question here. Danny Bassini, how did Auburn get so much NIL? Understand they're outpaying, and this is why their recruiting is so good. Well, one of the big things is Auburn's actually recruiting again. Toward the end of Gus's career, he certainly wasn't recruiting offensive linemen for a long time. They weren't developing them, but Auburn coaches weren't even offering and talking to guys like Perry Thompson and DeMarcus Riddick, 5-star guys that were committed to Georgia and Alabama. And then they started talking to them, and now they're both signed with Auburn. There are a lot of questions on why any program is doing really well. NIL, now it kind of clouds it. But Auburn historically, if you look in the modern era, they've been a top 10 recruiting program every year just by trying. So, I don't think it's any real mystery. Dave, when you look at the other game, Texas got knocked out by Washington. Washington's a pretty damn good football team, and they've been really good before. But it's been a while. Chris Peterson had success, and he just left. And Kalen DeBoer came from Indiana. He's got a hell of a quarterback, Michael Penix. So you got Washington and Michigan. Either way, the Big Ten's going to make the narrative. We won the national championship. They can't lose, but Washington is technically still in the Pac-12 this year. Let's break this game down and start talking about what you think is going to happen Monday night, Michigan and Washington in Houston.
Well, I think it's battles of each side of the ball. Like, who's going to prevail, Washington's offense or Michigan's defense? Washington has the best offense. Michigan has the best defense. Is Michigan's running game going to be able to control the clock and have some clock eating drives that result in not field goals but touchdowns? If they can, I think they win. I think 4.5 points is a lot of points to give away to a Washington team that has shown tremendous resilience all year. They put a whooping on the best team, Oregon, in the Pac-12 twice.
Yeah.
But some other less talented teams had them on the ropes a number of times throughout the season, and they would prevail on the final drive. So they are a very mentally tough team, well coached, great tradition that goes back to Don James and Warren Boone and quarterback U and all of that. I'm pulling for Michigan because of Bo, but I think it's going to be a great game.
Billy, you know what, that statistic he mentioned about quarterback U, there was a period in history where 18 of the 19 starting quarterbacks for the UW, University of Washington, kind of the UVA of the West Coast, 18 of the 19 quarterbacks went on to play in the NFL. That's pretty damn impressive. You remember, Billy, August 31st, 2018 at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, you and I were there. Auburn played Washington. Yep. They brought a lot of fans. That was a de facto Auburn home game. But, man, I'll tell you, remember, Billy, how impressed we were, their knowledge of college football, not just in the Pac-12. They knew all about Auburn in the SEC. And for sure. There was a family from Mobile that lived out there and worked in, like, Redmond, Washington. And they said, oh, yeah, these people out here, they all know the SEC. But, Billy, let's get your breakdown on Washington and Michigan Monday night.
Yeah, I kind of lean toward what Dave's saying. I think, it's Michigan's moment. I'd like to see them win it. I like Harbaugh. I like kind of what he stands for. He's an uncompromising guy. I'm going to do it my way, and manages to not only tune out, but just kind of laugh off, all the naysayers and the nitpickers. And I kind of like that. Like, he's got a lot of conviction. Like, I know what I'm doing, and all of the chatter doesn't affect me or my team. I like that. But, Washington, undeniable what a great dynamic offense they've got. I remember that game that we went to, and, I know you and I both were like, where did all these people come from? My goodness.
A lot of them.
They had Delta must have added 30 extra flights between Seattle and Atlanta to get them there.
Yeah.
That's a big stadium. And, it was shocking how many Washington fans were there. It was more of a 50-50 crowd than you and I would have ever imagined. So hats off to their alumni and fan base. I know there's a lot of Washington alumni in Atlanta, as there are for almost every college in America, but there weren't that many. There were a lot of people traveled, and it was impressive.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
And they weren't taking the Greyhound bus, I can assure you.
Yeah.
And
going back to
my opinion, with all due respect to places like Neyland Stadium, Washington Husky Stadium, that is the most beautiful place in the United States to watch the football game.
Yeah, over Lake Washington out there it's not Puget Sound. Isn't that Lake Washington right there?
Lake Washington.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, people always think it's Puget Sound. Interesting. Looking up just to verify, Dave, just to confirm what you said, the 2018 SEC championship game, you had Georgia versus Alabama. Georgia was ahead 28-14 in the third quarter, and Alabama came back and won 35-28. That's
Jalen
interesting.
Hurts.
Yeah, the last 3 times that Alabama has beaten Georgia for the SEC championship, they went on and did not win the national championship. That's what's the trade-off there? I mean, you don't want to lose it. What's more important, the SEC championship or the national championship? They're almost one and the same.
You see it all the times in March Madness, where it's all about matchups, and you have a brutal Elite Eight game or a brutal Final Four game, and then you lose the next game. I think it's probably due to being physically beaten down. It's also being sort of mentally not as sharp. That you peaked. I mean, the Alabama team, I think, peaked to play Georgia because they were an underdog. Georgia was the incumbent. They won. They felt like it was downhill from there, and that's what. They didn't play nearly as well against Michigan that compared to how they played against Georgia. And boy, Michigan was just much more ready, in my opinion.
Well, Billy, when you and I were, and we went down to the SEC championship game December 2nd at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, and basically Arthur Miller wrote a great book, The Death of the Salesman. Billy and I are going to co-author a book, The Death of the Ticket Scalper. Billy, Billy, I was laughing my ass off. Billy goes, Rob, even in this world we live in, there's still some of these guys over there trying to hustle people with the paper tickets, and they're all electronic. I mean, but you could not get in that stadium. I mean, I've been to a lot of venues, and I have never not been able, only one time was I not being able to get into a venue. If I get press credentials, that's different. But talk about just a fan. It's a different world. But Mercedes-Benz Stadium's a great place to watch a college football game.
Sure is.
It is cool. But looking at it now, and this is looking at the SEC versus. This is a stat I'm going to throw up here for you. And it's about national championships. The Big Ten has 2.5 national championships compared to 20 for the SEC. And that's going back to the second year of the Nixon administration, 1970 on up. Okay, 20. And the SEC's played for a number of them. You know what? What's weird? The record of Ohio State versus the SEC in bowl games is like 2-13. Missouri absolutely dominated Ohio State. But I've talked about this during the week, but I'm going to throw this out there, Billy. ESPN, the cameras, stop panning the sidelines and showing guys like Marvin Harrison Jr. the third over there. If I were his teammates, I'd be going, man, get out of here. We sure could use you because you practice with us during the week. We could use you right now because our quarterback, Kyle McCord, already quit the team. He's up at Syracuse, and you're here in street clothes on the sidelines. You're not helping us. If I'm the coach, Billy, and you're the coach, wouldn't you say, Marvin, appreciate what you did for us. Go sit in the stands and get you a hot dog and popcorn. Good luck in your NFL career. But I'm the head football coach of Ohio State University. We're a college team. You're no longer part of it. I've had it, man. And it's not an old school. I'm not yelling at the clouds. Get off my lawn. because there's no clouds today because it's foggy and rainy. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I mean, people use the analogy of a football game being like war, and it's just like a soldier that's been in your elite fighting unit, a Delta guy or a SEAL team guy, and he's going to sit it out right when you're getting ready to do a commando raid. Hey, I'm going to stay in the helicopter. I'm not going to rappel down on the ground and go take that bunker. It's the same kind of thing. You can't, the coach shouldn't have to say, go just sit in the stands, with your street clothes. The other players ought to be saying that.
Exactly.
Like, hey, if you're not out here with us, we understand that you're going to go make millions of dollars, but, don't hang out with us right now. We're still fighting a war, and you've elected to sit it out. It's just, I don't think it's the right the right message. And sometimes the players have to step in and do the coach's job.
Absolutely.
I mean, one of the greatest lessons I ever learned as a child, as a 9-year-old, in a swim meet one time. I just remember this because I love to read Aesop's fables as well. But 9 years old, swimming for the U Club, we're swimming against the Y. The person who was going to do the 100 medley got sick. I think they had a panic attack. And they came over. I was with my mom at the swim meet. My dad was out of town. And I'll never forget Coach Gordon Browne, who was a Navy frogman, a SEAL, who was our swim coach, came over and he said, Rob, I need you to swim the 100 medley. You're my best chance. And I said, I don't swim the medley. My mother looked at me and said, you do now. And I swam it and I won it. You know what? Because you're part of a team. God bless America. And you notice my flag shirt I'm wearing here. This is a Rock Mount shirt that you can get at Hewlett and Dunn Boot and Clothing Company on the historic square in Collierville, Tennessee. They're open Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Second largest Filson dealer in the Southeast, over 7,000 pairs of men's and women's boots. And you go in there, Charles Hall and his wife, Laura, the owners, they are there all the time. Raven, the staff, they really, really know what they're doing. They've got STS luggage and gear, Pendleton, Schaefer Outdoors. Oh, my God. That's the wardrobe consulting group for the TV show Yellowstone. You can get all those good-looking clothes there. They've got a half-off rack. They've got Filson luggage, Filson gear, more duck heads than you've ever seen, Devil Dog jeans made by a World War I Marine. If you're a size 36, you wear a 34. You're already losing 2 sizes when you buy a pair of those things. And they've got great-looking women's clothes. My God, dresses, shirts, pants, hats, Dolce Vita boots, Danner, Vask, Hire. They've got these Danner low-cut hiking boots I wear all the time. I'm going to go run a 10K wearing them. It's not like the old combat boots, Dave, that gave you permanent ankle problems. These are the best built boots ever. Hewlett and Dunn Boot and Clothing Company on the historic square in Collierville, Tennessee, hewlettandunn.com. Both of y'all really get it. But SEC, 20 national championships, Big Ten, 2.5. But right now, you know what it feels like? It feels terrible if you're an SEC fan, because the whole focus of the college football world is on one current and one future Big Ten team. How's that make you feel, Dave? Are you suffering from depression, not able to go outside, not face?
Not quite. I think I still think the upcoming years will show the SEC's football dominance over the Big Ten. But they do have an anomaly, and that's the University of Michigan and Jim Harbaugh, just as they had an anomaly with Urban Meyer at Ohio State, who beat Alabama in the first playoff semifinal. Wasn't one of Alabama's better teams, but Ohio State beat Alabama that year with a third-string quarterback. I think as long as Jim Harbaugh decides to stay at Michigan, they're going to matter. They're going to be good. They're going to get in the playoff. They're going to win some national championships. Now, of course, the NFL would love to have Jim Harbaugh back. Plenty of teams would, and may make him an offer he can't refuse. Yeah, beginning with the Falcons. And of course, we would love to have Jim in Atlanta. Mr. Blank would love to have that, I would imagine. So it's gonna be interesting to see what happens in the upcoming years. I don't really see Washington and Oregon coming to the Big Ten. That's interesting. I don't know yet about USC and UCLA. They just haven't really shown much the last couple of years. I know USC has Lincoln Riley, and they can recruit anyone they want. But you know, and then the argument, the conversation we've had on a number of shows about, you know, the midweek going from Los Angeles to East Rutherford, New Jersey. I think that'll matter also in football.
Yeah, it will. I put another stat up here. Georgia won that national championship in 1980 with Eddie Meek, Cleaver Weaver, Nate Webster, Herschel Walker, Buck Bellew, Amp Arnold, Lindsey Scott. From 1981 to 2021, a 41-year period, I put this stat up here. Schools in the border states to Georgia won a combined 26 national championships. I'm talking Clemson, Tennessee, Georgia Tech down on the flats in Atlanta. And Billy, we're going to get to you in a minute. Why do they call it the flats? But anyway, Florida State, Florida, Miami, Auburn, Alabama, Tennessee, 26. So Georgia had to endure 41 years of hearing that, okay? And even Georgia Tech down in the flats could claim we've won a national championship more recently than you. Now, I think Georgia has the best program, the best culture, and the best buy-in. In spite of 16, 18 guys going into the portal, they lost essentially a number 1 or 2 ranked recruiting class in the country, 5 5-stars, 8 4s, and 3 3s leaving, but they brought in December 20th, early signing date, another number 1 ranked class, Bama number 2, Texas number 3, Auburn number 7, and Oklahoma number 9. Billy, why do they call Georgia Tech down in the flats?
I don't know. You have to tell me. I have no idea.
I thought you were sitting there being real quiet with a poker face going,
yeah, no, I don't know.
See.
It is flat down there. I will say
it is flat. That is for sure.
All right. Because we don't know, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and we're going to be right back. We got the Sidelines band playing the Jug Band. Remember Mr. Darling on the Andy Griffith Show? We got them. We're going to be right back. Brendan Martin said they're experiencing severe storms down in Ocala, and the power's been knocked out. So, good God, I'm telling you, that's why you got to have a deep depth chart for Savant Saturday. He said the power company said it'll be back on in 20 minutes, and Larry the cable guy said I'll be there twixt 1 and 5. Yeah, he'll see you tomorrow. We'll be right back.
In a perfect world, you'd set a health goal and results would happen overnight. In this world, the real world, it takes time, dedication, and the right support to achieve your best self. The Vitamin Shopp's health enthusiasts are here to make sure you're not wasting a single moment on the wrong supplements. From the highest quality sports nutrition and superfoods to the most sought after trends, you'll find a huge variety of science-backed solutions for every goal. And the people to help guide you along the path to greatness.
Unbelievably, every 2 minutes in our communities, a child is either bought or sold for sex. I am Ari Dickey, board member for the Nashville Anti-Human Trafficking Coalition. Join me and millions of others in our fight against human trafficking and for its victims by helping to educate the most vulnerable among us, our middle and high school students. Go to nhtcoalition.org, become a partner, and help keep our families safe, because none of God's children are for sale.
Curve everything else. Win, 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 win. These ops ain't lit. Mommy. Win, 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 win.
All right. Nobody knows why they call it the flats. Tony Barnhart, Mr. College Football. All right, what is it, Billy?
So when they were creating the campus to inaugurate Georgia Tech, the football field needed grading, and they graded it with convict labor. to flatten that area out. And Rob, you've seen the old map on my living room wall.
Oh yeah, that is cool.
It's quite hilly, and that is from the 1890s. And obviously with earth moving equipment, they have graded a lot of Atlanta, and it doesn't have so many hills in the Atlanta proper area. Up in North Georgia, it's very hilly, but Atlanta seems pretty flat. But right there where the Georgia Tech football field is, apparently the convicts graded that and flattened it to make a football field under the direction of John Heisman, who also had been a Clemson and an Auburn coach.
Yeah, that's they ought, you know what they ought to call Interstate 85 from Auburn up to Clemson? John W. Heisman Memorial Highway.
There you go.
Because he coached at Auburn, Georgia Tech, and Clemson. And, he took Samford Hall, the president's office at Auburn. He took that design, and that's Calhoun Hall up at Clemson. And Dr. George Petrie was born in 1866 in Montgomery and was a professor at the University of Virginia up in Charlottesville in 1892. He brought the orange, the blue, and the white colors from Charlottesville down to Auburn for their jersey colors. That's what they wear. People call Auburn's blue jerseys. They're beautiful. And then the white stormtrooper uniforms. Those are badass. I remember a lot of TV commercials, for selling a color TV just to show the brilliance and the illumination. It would be Auburn in their white stormtrooper road uniforms against Tennessee in their all orange, deer hunting suits. But that looks really good. The Vols always look better on a field coat. That was always the ad with John. That was the ad that John Ward did. The Vols always look better on a field coat.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Give him 6.
Yeah, he goes, Bill Anderson, this Tennessee crowd is rising to their feet on the banks of the Tennessee River, some 105,000. And in just a few moments, the Pride of the Southland Band will come out and form that giant T. And then here come the Tennessee Volunteers. Ladies and gentlemen, it's football time in Tennessee. He'd say, no matter where you are, it's football time in Tennessee. How many of y'all, we've all been to Neyland Stadium. That is one of the most bone-jarring, chilling up your spine experiences. It's when that damn band, Pride of the Southland Band, goes out there and forms the giant T. It gives you chills. And that's not even as a Tennessee guy. I'm a Tennessee native. Now, my wife is a Vol for life. Cousin Mark, her brother Kurt's got an orange and white man cave, and splintered around and peppered around in there are all of his Marine awards and bayonets and pictures and all. But it is orange and white. And no matter where he's ever been deployed in the world, hey, war's got to wait. We're watching the Vols play. That's what we love about college football and pro football too. I will say this. How many of y'all have seen the ESPN documentary? We watched it last night on Bart Starr that SEC Network has done. Have y'all seen that yet?
I have not.
It is great. 17th round draft choice. Yep. And I know he's from Montgomery, but I didn't realize his wife, she went to Auburn. He was at Alabama. And they he was quarterback 16 years at Green Bay. And my friend Michael Sag is a Packers fanatic. And he's over here. Actually, last night we were watching it over here at the farm. And it's that's like a college atmosphere. Lambeau Field, Vince Lombardi. There's a scene in the movie when Bart Starr says he met with Coach Lombardi privately in his office. He said, look, if you're going to chew me out, don't do it in front of the other guys on the team. If you want me to be the leader, do it privately because they've got to follow me. And they had Jerry Kramer on there. Bill Curry is prominently featured throughout it. Bill Curry, I got to tell you something, man. He's becoming quite the elder statesman / spokesman for college football. I really, man, the older these guys get, the more you're like, damn. I mean, he loves college football. He's a Georgia Tech man through and through. Played for the Packers for a couple of years, but Bill Curry, loved him on this show. And so we also watched The 12th Man. last night about Jackie Sherrill and Texas A&M. So I texted Coach Sherrill. He's going to be on the show with us Wednesday morning at 9 a.m. Central. How much fun it was and what he did. They had the entire kickoff team was 11 walk-ons. Now it's 1, but they keep that tradition going. But
fantastic.
I think these documentaries, guys, do y'all watch a lot of those documentaries they do on SEC?
And the one that, speaking of football announcers, the one that Kenny Chesney narrates about the SEC football announcer, that's outstanding.
Oh, More Than a Voice.
Yes, that's great.
Yeah, it's one of the best.
I think one of my favorite moments in NFL history was the Ice Bowl. I believe that was in 1967. Wind chill was like minus 30. I think the actual temperature was 13 below. Packers versus the Cowboys, and Bart Starr does that quarterback sneak and runs over Leroy Jordan, the best defensive player on, I guess, along with Bob Lilly on the Cowboys team. And there you had Alabama grad against Alabama grad, mano a mano, to win at that time, the NFL championship, and Bart Starr prevailed.
Well, you go back in that game, and the NFL games, the NFL brand is so damn powerful. I'm kind of wondering when the NFL is going to start helping to fund / subsidize NIL, Billy. Lauren Smith, longtime Georgia sideline reporter, host of the Georgia Football Network pregame show. What do you got, Lauren? Great author, friend of our show, a frequent guest on here. He'll be going, by the way, guys, to his 65th consecutive Masters this April. 65 straight. He goes, well, I was just an old country boy from Wrightsville, and I went to Georgia, and I'd never been to Augusta, and I went there, and back in that day, you could take $1, and father would say, bring the change back, and just great memories, and you just gotta love Lauren Smith. Lauren Smith is Regis Philbin of the sports world. I mean,
that's great. Well, Rob, you and I had got invited to come over and spend a day with him in Athens, and he was nice enough to host us for lunch at the Athens Country Club.
Yes.
And that was like the Pope in Vatican City. I mean, he was like, everybody, kneeled down practically. All the ladies were flirting with him. And, it was amazing what a reception he got just walking through the corridor there at the country club to meet us for lunch. We got there before he did. And to see him make his entrance and everybody just fawn all over him was awfully impressive.
I mean, every woman in there going, Lauren, let's do lunch. You go, it's like Telly Savalas going out in Las Vegas. And speaking, it is Savant Saturday.
All right, here's a little Savant for you. If 1958 was his first Masters, Arnold Palmer won his first of 4 that year. He won in 58, 60, 62, and 64. If it was 1959, then it would have been Art Wall Jr., who won the 1959 Masters.
All right, well, Lauren, believe me, we get him on. He's on every day from the Masters with the show, and it's awesome. He's like, well, I'll always have my lunch on Wednesday with Vern Lundquist. We'll eat over there, and I mean, Lauren's just sandwich. Yeah. Lauren gets up at 4:30 in the morning, walks about 10 miles every day.
Wow,
the guy is, and when Georgia won the national championship in 2021, remember Billy? He's on here and he goes, well, I'm writing a book about Georgia. And I'm like, well, where are you? Where are you holed up in this writer's, colony? And he goes, well, I'm in St. Simon's, but we're going to go over to Sea Island. I'm like, Lauren, what a rough place to be holed up writing a book. But I said, the way Georgia's playing, you're going to be writing another book. Yeah, it's unbelievable. But
yes.
Look here,
what a nice guy, and it's cliche to say they don't make him that way anymore, but he's one of those guys that we came up in the era of newspapers and the Furman Bishers of the world. He was friends with all those guys.
Yeah,
and I asked him specifically because as a kid I grew up reading Furman Bisher in the Atlanta paper.
Oh yeah,
just unbelievable Shakespeare basically, and. Lauren knew him well. Those guys hung out in Augusta together at many a Masters. And, it's a wonderful thing to be able to spend an afternoon with a guy like that and just ask him questions and listen to his stories. I treasured every minute of that trip we had. I think that was for the preceding the Kentucky Georgia game. When did we go over there?
No, we went over there in June of 20. During the June of 20 or June of 21. Yeah. June of 21. And that's a Donald Ross golf course. And again, I'm not a golfer because if I played golf, I'd get addicted. I grew up playing tennis, but beautiful in that country club there, Athens Country Club, beautiful. And you know what's great? Lauren Smith is the great connector, not just of Georgia, but of Southern football and tradition, but he knows people all over the country. He had been, remember, he got there about 5 minutes late. He had been meeting with Mark Richt, who's his close friend, and Jim Donnan lives there. And a lot of times I'd be texting or talking to Lauren Smith, and he'd say, I've got to go pick up Coach Dooley. We've going down. This was just right before Coach Dooley died. You know, we're going down to Macon to speak to an event, and Coach Dooley and I would go. Lauren still tells stories about when he was at Georgia and he went in to Mike Cavanis and Coach Dooley and the football coaches and said, y'all, there's a junior down in Wrightsville that y'all should look at in football. And I was at the athletic banquet and they said, Lauren, go down and meet that young man toward the end of the table down there, Herschel Walker. And he told the coaches about him. And they said, Lauren, they don't even have a stoplight in Wrightsville. He goes, well, they may not have a stoplight, but they got a young man, Herschel Walker. And he said, 2 weeks later, the front page, Atlanta Constitution sports section, which used to be one of the greatest in the world, along with the Arkansas Democrat Gazette.
Jesse Outlaw, Bisher, even Louis Grizzard was a sports writer.
And Tony Barnhart, you know, incredible. And Terrence Moore, a great writer. So he 2 weeks later, Wrightsville Jr. runs 9,500. And that's when it all started. And, you know, ironically, when Herschel signed Easter Sunday after church, he signed on a Sunday.
Yeah, you started to hear all these Paul Bunyan type stories between signing day and Easter. You know, like that he would train by outrunning freight trains. You know, that could do 70 miles an hour through Wrightsville, but he would like run along the tracks next to the freight trains to try to outrun them. You know, and I mean, crazy stories of, you know, incredible strength that you would hear, and it took on Paul Bunyan type characteristics. You know, I mean, to a little bit of a degree, we saw that with Bo Jackson too. You know, like throwing rocks and killing pigs by just hurling a rock at them, and you know, all that kind of.
Well, I was there. The stories about Bo were true. I mean, I was there my freshman year on a hangover Sunday after a 3-day party. We were there along the first baseline at Plainsman Park, which was much cruder than it is now. It's gorgeous. And Bo hit a little ball, you know, similar hit to the shortstop. And before the guy even had the ball in his glove to rear back and throw, he was already way past first base. And everybody was like, I mean, see that that was before jumbotrons and reruns now. And you just saw him do things that blew your mind. I mean, Leroy Jordan is from Excel, Alabama. Now, funny thing about that is most people thought he'd go to Auburn because I think the family was farmers. Now, technically, being an Alabama native, Dave, and I know we got a lot of Alabama listeners and viewers, is Excel in, you know, 331 from Montgomery down to Flomaton, or actually to Florala. At Florala, isn't it? And yeah, okay, to Florala. That 331 is the Great Divider. You know, going west of 331, that part of Alabama is just L.A. or lower Alabama. Now, if you go east of 331 toward the Chattahoochee, that is called the Wiregrass. Is Excel in the Wiregrass or in lower Alabama? It's a small town. I know that.
It's in lower Alabama, I think. I could be wrong, but I believe it's in lower Alabama.
Okay, just checking on.
Right, say if he stays in bounds, Leroy will get him.
Coach Dive said one time that there was people were talking about him that thinking he wasn't really paying attention in the game. He said, "Let me tell you something." He goes, when I was at Alabama, one time I was on the sidelines standing next to Coach Bryant, and he's yelling, "Get Leroy in the game." He goes, "Leroy Jordan had been gone 3 years." You know, I mean, sometimes in the heat of the moment, some crazy stuff happens. Okay, so looking at now the college football picture, Brendan Martin going to try to join us. He has no power, and without power, I guess he doesn't have the internet. And without the internet or power, he can't come on the show unless he can go to a hot spot. But I don't know what kind of storm they had down there, but that's one of the things about where you live in Florida. It may be nice. Up here, it's very cold, not that bad. Down there, he has no power. But looking at all this stuff going on, and I say that the free market will work it out. You know, NIL, think about what a football coach has to deal with. In December, used to be you wrapped up your season, you prepared for the bowl. Now, add to the plate NIL. That's always out there. Every coach is now Monty Hall, let's make a deal. Okay. Number two, the transfer portal window opens the first week of December until the first week of January. So you got to deal with that. Okay. Early signing date. So early signing date, NIL, the transfer portal, and now get your team ready to play a bowl. I don't want the bowls to go away, but what would y'all do? Whoever wants to jump at this one, go first, to incentivize the full rosters to play in these bowl games. Because when are we going to start having guys quit and not play in the all-star games? And people say, well, they got to do that because they got to get tape. Well, it's the practices all week long for the Senior Bowl when everybody in the NFL is there. Your bowl practices, the scouts are still looking at it. But what would y'all recommend we do to incentivize 100% participation of every team that's in a bowl game and stop this quitting, opting out? It's quitting. Quit calling it what it is. It's like someone that remember the Baldwin sisters on the Waltons? They used to get liquored up all the time, drinking moonshine for medicinal purposes. Were they always sick? Come on. They were drunks.
Right. Well, I
didn't,
I mean, they're going to have to give them all an insurance policy. Maybe they'll have the Lloyds of London Bowl or something like that, where everybody participates has got a $2 million policy, in case they get injured. But it's money like it always is. I mean, they're almost going to have to pay them an appearance fee to show up for the game. That's what they do with professional golf tournaments, that are not PGA. Like, that's what the Live Golf is all about, is guaranteed appearance money to come play those events. Whether you finish in 70th place or first place, you're going to make a lot of money. And that's but the PGA is like, you got to make your money on merit. That's why they have the money list every year of who gets to keep their tour card and who doesn't. But that's what it's going to have to be with bowl games. The guys are going to have to be paid to show up, and they're going to have some kind of an insurance policy for the guys that are projected to be top draft picks who want to protect their financial interest against injury. Because, they still, to enhance their draft status, one more look against elite competition is always a good thing. And, to be on TV where a lot of people from around the country can see you in a non-regional contest, which is what bowl games are. They're kind of intersectional, right? That's kind of the appeal of it. But the Peach Bowl really hit their stride in Atlanta when they had a ACC-SEC matchup every year. They kind of hit that formula and had, 18 or 19 consecutive sellouts of the Peach Bowl. Before that, it was kind of a third-tier bowl game until they kind of hit that formula. So that's what the best of a bowl game is. It's like taking teams that are not going to run into each other often in the regular season, different conferences, different parts of the country, playing against each other. And frankly, for all of us that are sitting around during the Christmas break, it gives us something compelling to watch on TV. So they got an audience. They've got a reason for the players and the fans to tune in. The only missing ingredient is the risk of injury and relevancy, and money will take care of that.
Yeah. Dave, let me ask you this. Were you sort of disgusted with James Franklin, the head football coach at Penn State, who's now 3-18 against top 10 opponents since he's been at Happy Valley? All the excuses that he made after the game. God almighty, what a whiny little baby.
I think, first off, I totally, Billy, great points. I think it really requires force of personality, often unsanctioned leadership to change these things when we think there's just this tide against us. I'll use Bo Schembechler. I mean, liberal university, Bo was going to be in charge of the succession plan at Michigan. They weren't going to make a DEI hire, in his way. He was going to, pick his selector, and he was going to pick the selector all the way to Jim Harbaugh. And that's just leadership. Golf, all this live mess, and then the merger that happened on June 6th, and none of the players knew about it. Enter Tiger Woods. Tiger said, I'm going to get in the middle of this, and we're going to get a deal done, and this is never going to happen again. I think you'll see that, think about woke and DEI, and a hedge fund guy named Bill Ackman comes in and, makes sure that Claudine Gay gets booted out at Harvard. It requires people like that with power, with balls, and women with estrogen to come in and get in the middle of these things and say, we're just going to solve it. And I have hope and faith that will happen in college football in the next couple of years.
Yeah. And that's why we call, and so many people say, there's your free market, Rob. But it will work it out. Someone like Bill Ackman, a very smart hedge fund manager. Someone needs to put a montage together of all of the fights between Bill Ackman and Carl Icahn. Oh, you just can't make this stuff up, man.
That's got Netflix written all over it.
Yeah. But, there's guys like that are all about principle, but they back it up with financial muscle too. And he's like, I'm not going to be giving money to Harvard anymore while you clowns are making these ill-advised decisions that are hypocritical and don't withstand the light of day test. And, but if he didn't have the money to back up the principle, everybody would say, okay, please go away. But he had the stick of money. I'm going to withdraw money. So, this is no surprise in a free market, which I'm a fan of. Money rules at the end of the day. And if you combine that with somebody with, rock solid principle, then that's a powerful combination. And, same thing with Tiger Woods and golf. He's like an old school throwback golfer. He really is, and he backs it up with, I've got more money than any other golfer, and I'm not going to go along with this. I'm going to, this is the way we're going to do it. So the power is the money behind the principle in a lot of ways, but to have somebody, with rock solid, granite conviction is required to make a change.
Yeah, you do. In the terms of endearment in the business world and in life, follow the money trail, just how it works. And, the chancellor of the exchequer, that's what they call the treasurer in the United Kingdom, was not interested at all in the electronic steam engine until they said, well, you can tax it. And he became very interested in it. Okay. That's how that stuff works. All right. Get Dennis Miller on here with us right now. Brendan Martin down in Ocala, Florida. What kind of storm came through this morning? Just your garden variety thunderstorm? What was it?
It's out of control. It's like Billy came down with like a chainsaw, and I think it fell on the power lines. He was trying to go after a transfer portal. It's been out of control.
Billy,
we had a bad one in Beaufort, but no, we have still have our power.
Yeah, Brenda, this is Billy Roberts over in Brookhaven, next to Buckhead, but not Atlanta. Brookhaven, Billy. Dave Tompkins in the Low Country, Beaufort, South Carolina. Dave's a Mountain Brook native, Alabama fan, West Point graduate, got an MBA from Stanford, part of Savant Saturday, and Billy went to Auburn with me. 13 people in his family from Auburn, but his dad, the patriarch, is a Florida Gator grad from Key West, a mechanical engineer, one of the smartest men I know at about almost 90, still working every day.
Then why am I here? Because I have none of that brain power, dude. Like, not at all. Like, I should just leave now. Go.
We got the Kentucky-Florida basketball game to talk about.
Yeah. Well, it's way too early to talk about basketball. Calm down. Okay. Calm down for me.
Wait, but no, Brendan,
you've in about a month.
Brendan, I got to ask you about this. I know you all lived, when your dad, Buddy, was sports editor of the New York Daily News. So you lived in New York, lived in Colorado when he was sports editor of the Denver Post. You spent some time in Boulder. When you and I and Audrey talk a lot, kind of late for people out there. I'm just going to throw this at you. I liked what Deion did in terms of the attention he brought to Pac-12 football and all like that. But give us, the bare naked truth. Let's take the skinheads bowling. Let's talk about the truth of what Boulder's like and the odds of Dion being ever able to build a powerhouse program out there? Because looks like half of his assistant coaches after the first year have already hit the road.
Well, I call it the People's Republic of Boulder. First of all, I always have. It's a very strange dichotomy down there because you're literally adding this giant gallon of a gasoline to like a fire that just doesn't accept gasoline. It's like oil and vinegar trying to meet there. It is a very strange marriage to me, because we all know, growing up, we were like, hey, let's go up to, well, I guess a little bit, but let's go up to Boulder and see some real football. I mean, McCartney days were a little bit different, obviously.
Yeah.
But it's not it's a Broncos state, right? Yeah. It's NFL, right? You're not like, no one gets up for CSU, all right? It's not like a thing. I think what we sort of, and I said this before because my father is a huge Dion guy. He loves the message and all that kind of stuff. I told him, I said, let's wait a little bit. Let's see what happens after the newness wears off, the honeymoon phase is over per se, because end of the day, it's just not like an SEC school, right? It's not gonna. You're gonna be a flash in the pan, and I think you're gonna attract these coaches, and you're gonna attract some players to come there, but you're not gonna. It's not a football vibe town. It's like, let's go buy a bag of dime weed from the store and hang out over in the corner. I mean, literally, when you're at a game at Folsom Field, it's funny because it's packed for like the first half, and then like at halftime, everyone literally leaves the stadium and goes to the car and like has something to drink and smoke, and then about half of them make it back in the stadium. I mean, nobody really cares as much as they pretend to care. So I guess, I just feel like it's just a stepping stone in Dion's world to, end up somewhere. Like we had that discussion several weeks ago. Was he going to be at Texas A&M? I think there was even discussion as we're going to see him down in Florida. He's a Florida, he's a Southern guy. So I think Dion's all about Dion and his Louis. Yeah. So I just don't feel like that's got staying power. And I think Dion's going to need a lot of really good coaches around him to be effective, because I don't really think he knows what he's doing other than trying to get his kid into the NFL. So, I just don't feel like it's going to be this marriage forever where they're going to make statues of him, outside of Folsom Field in Boulder, because I think we'll see Dion end up somewhere else. I guess. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. And I got to take a quick commercial break, but my point about Dion is I don't dislike him, but I think it's been great for getting eyeballs. Look at the numbers. 9.6 million people watched Colorado State the year before.
Yeah.
1.3 million watched it. But the thing about Dion is it's so much about him that he sucks all the oxygen out of the room. Other than Travis Hunter from Sewanee, Georgia, Collins Hill High School, the number one player in the country, longtime Florida State commitment, ended up at Jackson State on signing day with Dion and some NIL money. Then he goes out there. Other than Travis Hunter and Dion's two sons, can you name anyone on that team? No, because it's all about them. All right, we're going to take a quick commercial break. Before that, I want to say something about the Vitamin Shop, 5338 Goodman Road in Olive Branch, Mississippi. Justin Ross has opened up the first of two locations. They're open Monday through Saturday, 9:30 a.m. to 8 p.m. and on Sundays, 10:30 a.m. to 7 p.m. They have healthcare specialists, nutritionists, people in there that actually know what they're doing. I buy probiotics there. My wife and I do. Also, shot blocks, goo, energy gels. They can put together a complete package, a game plan for you. If you work out and you take care of yourself, and you better because you only got one body, go to the Vitamin Shop, 5338 Goodman Road in Olive Branch, Mississippi. And soon, first week of March probably, they'll be opening in Oxford, Mississippi, home of the Ole Miss Rebels. Proud to be associated with them. Let's take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back. Brendan Martin live from Ocala, GatorBaitMedia.com. Billy Roberts, Brookhaven Billy, not Atlanta, and Dave Tompkins in the low country of Beaufort, South Carolina after this.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
We try to really be, Maury Gaston calls this the most erudite sports show in America. So I want to try to read a little bit of literature here.
I don't know what that means.
Request from, yes. Someone said, is erudite south of Birmingham or south of Montgomery?
It just feels like feels like it's something I do to my yard. I erudite it.
It's right. Put some erudite Spike D80 in there. But he said, how about reading us an Aesop's Fable, Rob? So Audrey and I Christmas Eve bought a copy of Aesop's Fables at Costco. There's 487 of them. So here's the good one. Kind of makes sense about what's going on in college athletics. The pig and the sheep. A pig found his way into a meadow where a flock of sheep were grazing. The shepherd caught him and was proceeding to carry him off to the butcher's when he set up a loud squealing and struggled to get free. The sheep rebuked him for making such a to-do and said to him, the shepherd catches us regularly and drags us off just like that, and we don't make any fuss. No, I dare say not, replied the pig, but my case and yours are altogether different. He only wants you for wool, but he wants me for the bacon. Right. Aesop's Fables. I mean, you just
sounds like it sounds like my last marriage. Actually,
right.
I mean, it's true. It's good. Aesop was a wise man. All right, let's get started in here. There's so much happening in college athletics, and Brendan, kind of lay this down for us. I get a lot of people asking me what's going on at Florida. You and I talk a lot. You and Franz and your dad. Y'all are going to these press conferences, looking at it from 40,000 feet above. I think Dave and Billy would agree. You are on a gravy train with biscuit wheels when you're the head football coach at Florida. You have everything. You have one of the two most talent-rich states in America. You have a rabid fan base, 23 million people in the state. You've got facilities, you've got everything, but it's not happening in football. But from 1989 to 2009, the Gators were the winningest football program in America. 8 SEC titles, 3 national championships. What's happening?
That's such a loaded question, which is why I love you for that and your sheep and pig analogy. I actually, I mean, obviously we're very close to the program. We have, online magazine at GatorAteMedia.com. We have a YouTube show, 5 regular writers, massive, robust on the social media following. And, there's a lot of opinions. And I think you have to look at it from 2 perspectives. There's Gator fan, right, who sees it. And then there's sort of like media Gator person / Gator fan who sees it, right? And then there's like, the 60,000 foot perspective of what everyone else sees. Because the problem is, in a lot of ways, because, it's the new way, a la a bunch of Sabanites running around, is that nobody talks to the media anymore. So we don't get any special information. And I mean that in the sense is that's not how it used to be. You used to cover the beat and you used to have, some understanding of what was going on. Hey, don't talk about this. This is off the record. None of that sort of happens anymore. And I think that's where Billy sort of, fell off the train initially. You got a guy like my dad that's been covering Florida Gator sports, interviewed every head coach since like 1902. And love you, Dad. And you literally has interviewed, sat down with every single coach, written Urban Meyer's book, Steve Spurrier's book. I'm in his office, by the way. Steve Spurrier's book. And you get a guy that won't even take a sit down conversation with a guy like Buddy Martin, which is, the point I'm illustrating is that he doesn't understand tradition, and he doesn't understand the SEC in that space. And he kind of come in, you got to get it, especially at Florida, because you can't just come in and change everything soup to nuts. Now, as far as what's occurring here is that Gator fan, right? They've become complacent and went from, hey, 10-1's not good enough, get the hell out type of perspective to, hey, we're rebuilding. It's 5 wins is good. 5 wins is what we've beaten one rival in 3 years. Like, what I think is sort of Billy's come in to try to fix everything and throw everything away and then come back and say, okay, this is how I see it. Billy Napier is very, very OCD in the sense of that and I say this is a problem with legacy coaches sometimes. His brother, his brother's brother, his dad, everyone's a football coach, right? So he says, I'm going to come in and I'm going to run the ball right up the throat and I'm going to establish the run game and da-da-da-da-da. Well, I do a podcast almost every Friday with Urban Meyer. And he talks about when you don't have the best players on the field, that's where we start running things like read option. And he said, Dan Mullen and I came in, and the way we were so effective at like Utah and, and even Florida is that when we came in, we're a good evaluation of what we have on the field and the talent that's out there. And then we go and run something like the read option so we can go and win a football game, right? It's sort of like a very small, like if you look at what happened at the Missouri game this year, which I think is sort of a really good like way to depict what we sort of see from Billy Napier. You have a chance to beat a team on the road, number 9 team in the country. Yeah. Your quarterback's hurt, right? Who's a pocket passer who really doesn't fit. I mean, he's a great player, but he really doesn't fit or is what's necessary to sort of be the Urban Meyer-esque option sort of we got to win, with strategy instead of talent. Your Graham Mertz goes down. You bring in a guy like Max Browne, who's no one's heard of, but he's got wheels. He's smart. He's a baseball player. He throws on the run. He starts driving the ball. He starts changing the entire narrative of the game. You got him on the heels. You got a chance to score a touchdown, and your defense sucks, and you all of a sudden decide to go play small ball and try to get 3 points and go up 2 and then think that your defense, who's the worst defense in the entire college football landscape, is now going to stop number 9 at home with this beefy field goal kicker who's just kicked one for 61 yards. And now suddenly you think you're going to go run the prevent defense, and suddenly you're going to stop this team and not, and hold a 2-point or 1-point lead, whatever it was. Yeah. He had a chance to go for the kill and, actually, win a game. And then suddenly he inserts his mindset. And I'm done when I say this is where we're at right now. He needs an offensive coordinator. He needs a Dan Mullen, right? He needs somebody that tells him, stop, we need to do this, but he won't listen, right? It's the same problem all year from Utah to Arkansas or whatever it is. There's no communication with the largest coaching staff in the history of college football, analysts coming out to yin yang, and nobody talks to anybody. There is no communication. And here we are sitting and in this off season, which you don't even go to a bowl game, so you don't get those 15 extra practices. and you're sitting there and you know what your deficiencies are, and we're supposed to get excited about, getting a punter, or what he did the other day, which was, well, we're getting a whole new front office because now he's going to try to build an NFL style, situation in Gainesville. And I know things are different with the transfer portal, NIL, and all of these sort of things. Billy needs to keep it simple, stupid. Follow a little bit of tradition, start listening to guys, I don't know, like Steve Spurrier, who's the ambassador, damn Fields named against him, and go win. Yes. You have to win. You have to find a way to win, because in the land of the transfer portal, you may go get a DJ Lagway and all these kinds of things that are exciting. But right now, we still need 2 offensive guards. We picked up guys that I don't even know who they are. That again, you have an opportunity with this transfer portal situation to rebuild and go have an opportunity to win, because next year it's the hardest schedule in all of college football. And if you think you're going to go win 4 and 5 games, you got a tall order. So to sum it all up is that Billy Napier is like smoke and mirrors. And I just don't think he's the guy that's going to usher Florida football into the future of what we're seeing to be, but the SEC, adding Texas, being this super conference. I just think he's the wrong fit for what needs to happen in a place like Florida.
Yeah, and that being said, Dave, Billy, jump in here, because he's got more analysts than he does players on the football team.
Yeah,
it's just like the federal government, just too many people.
Well, I mean, the ability to read the room, and in a place where there's a lot of tradition and a lot of people that have been around the program forever, donate to the program, have strong opinions about it. If you're a guy coming in, you ignore them at your peril. And that's not exclusive to Florida and Gainesville. That's, every school that's got tradition. There's a reason why they got a football stadium there that holds 90,000 people. At one time, that stadium holds 20,000. But, tradition built that big giant stadium down there, Ben Hill Griffin Stadium. Rob, you and I have talked about that on a number of programs. Those stadiums didn't just happen yesterday. There's a lot of tradition and a lot of success that went into that. And a new guy coming in that middle fingers all of that is crazy. I mean, that's just not smart politically. It's not. Any successful person would come in and assess, who's important that I need to listen to, and ask the Spurriers and the Urban Meyers, who have done it very well in the not so distant past, who do I need to be paying attention to? I mean, the Steve Spurrier would be the first phone call I would make about anything regarding Florida football. That guy is just absurdly prescient about, what it takes to win, also clever. You've made the point that, you got to take the talent that you do have and figure out a way to win with them. This is who you're going to war with. And you got to figure out a way to, we had a guy, Tommy Tuberville at Auburn. Rob knows him very well. And he had the old nickname of Riverboat Gambler. And I saw an interview with him one time. He was like, we used to get that nickname because we had to play trick plays and fake punts and all kinds of things that were out of the box because we didn't have the same talent. But you could win by catching people flat-footed with a surprise play. And so he got the nickname Riverboat Gambler. But it was because he was playing with inferior talent, but he was finding a way to win with clever strategy. So, and he's a great coach at Auburn. People love.
Yeah, Dave.
There were a number of years that Steve Spurrier was unstoppable. There were a handful of years that Urban Meyer was unstoppable. There were a couple of years that Billy Donovan in basketball was unstoppable. Who doesn't want to go to Gainesville to go to college? Great weather, great campus, beautiful town. I mean, all the assets are there. Just listen to who, the tradition is there. The brand is there. Don't try to create something new. Just build on, it's like me trying to have a different take than the two that preceded me. Great takes. I'm not going to have a different take. I'm just going to try to build a little bit on what they said, because that's what your impetus should be as the football coach at Florida. Just build a little bit on what's already come before you and reach out to those folks.
Yeah,
and we haven't seen that. Sorry, Rob.
No, you're right.
We just haven't seen that, and he's sort of trying to break everything to sort of rebuild it back up. You don't have that kind of time at Florida. You just don't, because he right now, this is what's really going on in recruiting space. And we're seeing this in the transfer portal, is that he's struggling to get money because the boosters don't want to support anything that's going on.
Yeah.
Because they're truly unhappy because they know any given Saturday that Billy's going to go up and lose to Arkansas at home. Like, if you look at the losses that he's had, you lose the Bandy, on your point about being the riverboat gambler, his first season, we did see, in fact, we did an article where we called him the gambler. Excuse me, because he went for it on fourth down, like every play, and he got a lot of heat for that, or every fourth down. He got a lot of heat for that, but in a lot of ways, it was him trying to do something different to win. Look, you have the fun and gun, right? Steve Spurrier. Why do you think that came around? You got the spread offense or read option with Spurrier and Mullen. Why do you think that those things worked? How in the hell do you think you're going to line up and play smash mouth football with the, crappiest offensive line ever, and you're suddenly going to go and be effective? None of it makes sense. You come out your next year and you have a huge win against Tennessee, but if you look in the second half of that game, you see that Florida doesn't score a touchdown there. You play and then subsequently goes into the next game against Sisters of the Blind and Poor with McNeese Cowboys of Southern Louisiana, and you can't score a touchdown. Like what's going on there? I mean, no wonder Trevor Etienne's like, Deuce, I'm going to Georgia and probably ride pine. Then I'm going to do another year. That's the canary in the coal mine right there. You can't give him enough money to stay. And on top of it, he's going to play for your rival at Georgia. I mean, what the hell? Like, that does not happen. Even Urban Meyer was like, I don't know how that happens. It happens when your players know they can't win. And I think that's what, there's not that winning mentality at Florida.
Right. Well, we saw that with Bo Nix at Oregon. I mean, he was an Auburn guy, but he assessed the situation and said, I'm out of here. I don't blame him for that. I hated to see him having all that success at Oregon because he could have had it at Auburn if only, the environment was better and the coach was right. But in a lot of ways, he signaled that this is an unwinnable situation. The coach is not long for this place, and there's too much turmoil, and I'm out of here because I've got a limited time. I think you made a great point a minute ago. Out of Florida, there's no time to ramp up. You're not going to get 4 years to build your program, like you used to do. Nobody's going to give you that kind of patience anymore. You better hit it hard the first year and remake the roster, and you better be winning big in year two. That's the way it is right now.
Well, let me throw this at you, and this is what I see in the SEC. A new coach coming in, and I like to paint pictures. A wildebeest calf, when born, can run within 3 minutes of birth on the Serengeti in Africa, and if he cannot run, or she can't run, a cheetah, a leopard, a lion will eat you, okay? A football coach coming into the SEC, it's like you live in the median on Interstate 75 south of Atlanta. You got to pull out of your driveway doing about 100, okay? That's how it works. And I'm looking at what's going on at Auburn. I had and Brendan, you're really, really, you're smart. You're like your dad. God, you can tell. You can
don't ever say that again. I'm nothing like him.
Well, okay. but you can tell stories and put all this complex minutia in the vernacular with relative ease and make it funny. But what happens, and I've had some powerful boosters at different schools I've talked to, and they said, you think that I've got my finger on the button and can control everything. I can't. If I'm not on the board of trustees or the board of regents or whatever, I don't know what, fool's going to be over there, the latest guy to come along that thinks he's Superman. But I'll tell you what, you better pay attention to what your board of trustees does, your board of regents, who they elect as president, because when Auburn brought in that jackass, Stephen Leith. He's referred to as the $100 million mistake. He came from Iowa State July of 2017 to Auburn, was fired in June of 2019, 23 months in. He had crashed an airplane or messed it up at Iowa State and wrecked it, didn't pay for it. Nobody vetted this guy. You know, it just became the hot hire. We got to have this guy. Well, he comes in, and it was a disaster. His wife and him spent around $16 million trying to renovate the president's mansion at Auburn. I mean, she was a tyrant, you know, Marie Antoinette. It was horrible. That led to the hire of Alan Green as athletic director, who, nice guy, very nice guy, but not qualified. And then that led to the second worst hire in Auburn history, well, I guess they're tied. Tony Barbee, the basketball coach. He was horrible. And you bring in Brian Harsin, a guy that didn't believe in recruiting. And you think it can't happen. You better pay attention. There's a great book, The Art of Being a Billionaire by Donald Trump. And he said, no matter how many attorneys and accountants and financial people that I have on staff, he's got an MBA from the Wharton School at Penn. He's a pretty smart guy. They don't give those away, okay? You don't show up and get a participation MBA, nor do you get one from Stanford where Dave went after West Point. But I'm going to tell you something. He said, I still go down and know how to read a balance sheet, a debit and ledger, credit. You better pay attention. Billy, you're and Dave and Brendan, you're there every day. You know who I would go after if I'm Florida for the next coach? A guy that's the right fit. I'm not giving a specific name, but you need people like you and friends and your dad and all. Y'all know Florida football. You know the culture. But you know who else you need? Steve Spurrier. Urban Meyer. Let's check Urban Meyer's record. 187 wins, 32 ties, 3 national championships. I think I'll listen to him. You know, remember the line in the movie Tommy Boy? You know, I can stick my head up a bull's, you know what, and take a good look, at a T-bone, but I'll take my butcher's word for it. Why would you not get Steve Spurrier? You've grown up with these guys, Brendan. You don't realize how blessed you are. I know you do, but you have such a depth of knowledge that most people could only dream of. I mean, it's just
I'm
like
so
watching
smart.
Lucas Nelson the other day.
Crazy.
You are.
God.
No, you are. But
My lexicon is empty.
Yeah. But you've grown up around these
erudite.
guys. But why would you not go to Spurrier and Urban Meyer and say, hey, help us find the right fit for Florida?
Yeah,
I was in Gainesville the week of the Arkansas game. My family now retired in Sarasota, so we always stop in Gainesville overnight on our way down and love it. And it was Wednesday night in Gainesville, and Gainesville was dead. It didn't start to pick up until Thursday when the Arkansas folks started to arrive. And it really reminded me of 2002 when I went to the Iron Bowl. I took a couple of my Stanford buddies to the Iron Bowl in Tuscaloosa. We lost to Auburn, got killed by Auburn. And that was Dennis Frangione. And I remember being embarrassed back then. And I'm like, fellas, this guy has ruined Alabama. He has ruined Alabama football. And that's kind of what I fear is, I mean, it's not ruined forever, but it's a process of ruining and rot that's going on at Florida. And I think it sucks. I mean, even though I'm going to pull against Florida every time Alabama plays them,
Sure.
We all want Florida to be good. They need to be good.
Yeah, they do.
It's like
you
Batman
get,
and the Joker. You need the Joker.
If you're going to be picking a new coach, you could do what Auburn does, which is they get a search committee and they get 20 people in the room, and you can never make a decision with a crowd like that. But Florida could say, we got a search committee of 2, Spurrier and Urban Meyer. You guys, the 2 of you, figure out who the next coach needs to be and run them through your filter. You guys understand what champions look like, and go find the younger version of the 2 of you. If they had the courage to do it and have a 2-person search committee, that would solve 90% of the problems.
I mean, think about this, guys. How often do coaches leave a program? Now, I know they won natties and it's different, but Urban and Spurrier are still like around. I mean, Meyer came and did the Gainesville quarterback club or whatever. He does it every year because he lives in Sarasota, because he's still connected. Think of what you think about Swamp Kings. he wanted to tell the story because he cared about what people thought about him in Florida, because it mattered to him. Why does it matter to him? Because he wants to be in the Ring of Fame. Why does he want to be in the Ring of Fame? Because like schools like Florida, they get into his DNA, into your blood, and a lot. That's almost most SEC schools. And now you've got two guys who are, infamous in college football lore and history, and they're still connected to Florida. Former players or coaches, people stay in Gainesville afterwards, and Danny Werfel is still around. Like, these guys don't leave because it mattered to them so much, and it mattered because you had coaches that made it matter and instilled what it means to be a Gator, what it means to play in the SEC. Spurrier always says, go win the SEC and we can talk about everything else after. And it's sort of like all of a sudden that's lost, right? That traditional sense. And I just don't we're doing in April, we're doing a thing. Spurrier's got a restaurant up here called Spurrier's Gridiron Grill, or I always forget the name wrong. But the point is that he's doing, Urban's coming with Steve, and they're going to do a talk and raise money about winning. Literally, that's the topic of conversation, because they hate losing so much that they feel like they come and they need to reestablish that it matters to win. And I mean, that just speaks volumes to me.
Yeah. It does. Look, we got Yancy Porter is on with us right now, Rebel Yell Hotline. And I know Franz, I'm not sure if you've been on there with him, but that's a great show. Monday, 6:00 p.m. Central, Sports 56 WHBQ in Memphis. Also, Chuck Rounsville, Harry Harrison, Gary Darby, Gordon Ford, the whole crew there. These guys are dialed in like nobody else covering Ole Miss. Yancy, look, man, I hope you are feeling better. I just wanted to make sure you're going to be able to join us this morning. I know you hurt your back. I hope you're getting better. And it probably didn't help that Quinshon Judkins just took a giant split on the Ole Miss football program when he decided to leave. But or was he asked to leave? Because stuff is coming out. We're hearing all this stuff. But who better than the truth broker, the purveyor of all good and evil and everything in between at Ole Miss, Yancy Porter, the mayor, the man from Hattiesburg.
The old man now, I tell you what, body just starts falling apart once you turn 50, doesn't it? But
no, you're just getting
Don't
started.
tell me that. You need to go to the vitamin shop.
That's
right.
You
need to go to the vitamin shop. That's right.
Some Superman vitamins right now. I tell you what, pulled my back last Thursday in Atlanta, and it has been something else. But no, I mean, I think everything came to head with Quinshon at the Peach Bowl. Allegedly, they had to call a timeout. Dart, Quinshon was cussing out one of the offensive linemen, and that was kind of like the final straw. And Dart asked Lane to take him out of the game, and then they had exchanged words on the sideline. And I think it's been kind of an ongoing thing with Quinshon, and then he's pretty much asked to transfer after that point.
Yancy, there were so many rumors buzzing around. It's like, the people at NORAD listening to all the cyber chatter about crazy people in the world. Was he asking for more money? Quinshon Judkins, who's from Pike Road, which is 35 minutes from Auburn. And Auburn and Alabama didn't offer him. Ole Miss did. He's a hell of a player. And you were ahead of everybody before his first game in 2022 when you said that'll be the player that Auburn and Alabama look back at. Why didn't we offer him? You predicted the greatness that he's had, but it apparently came with a price. But it was a shocker because Ole Miss right now has the 8th best odds of any team in America, according to the folks in Las Vegas, Joey Bag of Donuts and Vinny the Knife, that to win the national championship next year. He just leaves. So who's Ole Miss going to go out and get to replace him at running back, or who are some of the guys that will just take over? Because Ole Miss, not just in high school recruiting, they got 4 of the top 5 guys in Mississippi. They're the portal kings. There's nobody doing what they're doing.
Yeah, with the first part of your question, I think there's been rumors about Quinshon wanting more money, but he signed his NIL deal the day before the Peach Bowl. So I don't think it was a money issue
Okay.
that he came back and asked for more money. I think, like I said, I just think that Quinshon had rubbed his teammates the wrong way went too many times, and it has started becoming too much of a distraction. Sometimes the old saying is it's an addition by subtraction. Hell of a ball player. Personally, great kid. I really hate it. I hate it didn't work out. I wish him all the luck. I think he's going to have a long and great NFL career. He is that NFL top back. He can go 25, 30 carries a game, never gets hurt, gets stronger as the game goes, got a short burst. Somebody's going to be getting a good back. He just probably needs to tighten up a little bit. There's never any off the field issues or anything like that. So it's not like he's a bad kid and gets in trouble outside of the lines. Just needs to temper it down some. So, there's been rumors that maybe LSU's Diggs that went in the portal. They've been looking at him. If McClellan went into the portal from Alabama, give him a look. But I don't know what's going to happen with either of those guys.
Yeah.
Right now they've really been focused on. They got 3 offensive linemen in this weekend. As I told you last week, that's really been the focus to close this class out, is to get them a couple more offensive linemen. They feel really good about the kid at North Carolina that's visiting this weekend. He's the number 2 offensive lineman in the portal in this class. Some say he's already committed. We'll see tomorrow. Probably it'll come out. The kid at LSU that's winning into the portal, they're going to take a look at him, try to bring him in next week. And that's kind of about where it stands right now. Really trying to close it out with some offensive linemen. They feel pretty good of where they are at running back, but I'm sure they'll like to add another one in the portal at some point.
Yeah. Y'all jump in here. I mean, Yancy, love you saying that. I mean, I don't think Quinshon, you know him, you know Jackson Dart, you know these guys. So I'm taking your word for it. Appreciate your commentary. Jump in here, guys.
He reminds me a lot of Draymond Green for the Warriors, where here's a guy, Green, who is such an asset on the court until he's not an asset. He's the Warriors, other than Steph Curry, he's the Warriors' greatest asset until he becomes the greatest liability. And the Warriors are probably going to have to just cut him loose. It's a shame because these guys, to Quincy's point, they don't get in trouble outside the lines. I mean, they're really team guys. They really care about their team. They just can't control their emotions in game, and it's a shame to watch. And I hope, because he has so much talent, I hope it doesn't follow him to the next program. I hope it doesn't follow him to the NFL. I mean, he probably needs some professional help.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, he has never done one thing wrong off the field. He makes good grades. He's a solid citizen. There's no problems outside the lines. It's just, he's just, like you said, it's just controlling it once he gets on that field. And that's a great comparison, like Draymond Green. I mean, he's just a guy that just, and it's hard. I mean, I'm sure it's hard for Lane. I mean, that was Lane's pet project. He was, there's that picture of him sitting in the stadium by himself in a freezing cold watching Tompkins there as a senior in high school. I mean, that was kind of his baby, and I think that's only the second player that Lane's ever let go at Ole Miss, the other being Michael Trigg, who was having off the field issues. His was not on the field. So, you got to do a lot for Lane to let you go. I'll say that.
Yeah. Brendan, would Florida make a run at Quinshon Judkins, you think?
I think they tried. There was, of course, rumor mill. I think they even offered. I don't know if that's fact, but in a lot of ways, he reminds me, and not talent-wise, because I think Percy Harvin was probably one of the best college football players that ever played. But he had a lot of issues upstairs. Percy. It was known fact that Percy struggled with a lot of things. But I think it takes a little bit of crazy sometimes to be that good in the game of football. Excuse me. And, it's something that you sort of deal with, not to mention, guys like him and running backs, they just take shots all day, all their entire career. So, I know Florida made I know there was conversation, but I'm like, who doesn't want a guy like Quinshon? I mean, good God. I mean,
No doubt. I mean,
not to mention that, like Lane is just my favorite coach, like right now, like just what he did. So I think y'all are going to be all right. But it's like, we lost ETN, right? To, that was our Quinshon. It's tough to lose a huge player like that. And then, that's kind of the state that we're in anymore in the game of college football.
You go way back, and Charles Haley on defense, Terrell Owens on offense. The game is littered with case studies of these head cases that they just need professional help, or they're not going to be able to save themselves from themselves. And it's a real sad shame to watch these train wrecks.
Well, you look at this and they talk about a guy like Quinshon Judkins in a locker room, Yancy. I think one of the most ambiguous coaching figures is Lane Kiffin. Everybody thinks he's this extrovert, but when you get near him, he's very introverted. But how well does anybody really know Lane Kiffin, Yancy? And do you see him around town? Is he opening up more? Is he getting more relaxed? Because I think a lot of people say, oh, he's going to take over when Saban leaves. And that's going to be a long time anyway. But I think he loves being at Ole Miss. Johnny Vault stayed there 25 years. People didn't think he'd stay there that long coming from TCU. 25 years he was there, 196 wins, 6 SEC titles, and 3 national championships. You can win at Ole Miss. And I told my Ole Miss friends on this text thread, Beef and Perkins and Big Daddy, I said, y'all are having more fun than any fan base in college football. Ole Miss people are they're just having fun. And everybody else, we're all running around with our hair on fire. Yancy, if I had too much coffee, not enough, or somewhere in between.
Yeah, I mean, he's a laid back guy, man. I would imagine right now he's in Boca on his boat, fishing right now along with the rest of the staff. I mean, he goes at it when it's season, and when it's off season, he's not out there recruiting 24/7 like the rest of these coaches. That's why the portal era is, and the NIL is kind of elevated Lane to the level that he's at.
Yeah.
If it would have been, he would have been struggling recruiting, and it wouldn't be where he is right now. He'd be going 8 and 9 wins instead of 10 and 11, and possibly trying to take it to 12 and 13. It's allowed him to not have to recruit the whole off season and pat every 9th grader on the back and tell them how great they are all the way through high school. You can go in the portal and recruit somebody for 2 days, and then it's over. So I would imagine he's in Boca right now. He's not out on the square shaking hands. When he's got his off time, he's usually on the ocean somewhere.
Yancy, I have a question. Can I ask a question to Yancy?
Yeah.
Okay, so we were talking to Urban Meyer the other day on our podcast, and we asked this question to him about recruiting. He says, "Oh, Coach, you probably don't." We're talking about how he shouldn't be missing coaching, right? And I make this analogy because Urban said, "Well, I don't know, how did you recruit Tebow? God, I called him, and I knew him, and I knew his family, and I knew everything. But it's like you have a dossier on these guys, right?" And he said, I'm talking to one of my friends who's a head coach, and he wouldn't name any names. He says he called him up. And he talked about the recruiting process and the transfer portal, and he says, Coach, it's not like it used to be. And I said, well, what do you mean by that? And he says, because now you don't recruit that way anymore. He goes, now it's about how much. That's what it's about right now. He says, literally. So my question is, Yancy, I know Lane came on towards the end of the season and he started to complain about not having any booster money. I think he alluded to it in his press conference. And look, I'm a Lane guy. I think he speaks the language of this of the generation that's coming up. I think he's also got cool factor, right? And he's got, credibility, right? So in the SEC for sure, he's taken his lumps. So was there, sort of the rumblings, because I covered the beat at Florida, was there rumblings that like the boosters heard his call? He put up the $ bat signal, and all of a sudden, a Wells Fargo truck pulled up and, opened up the back of it. I mean, because something changed for him to suddenly go and light it up in the transfer portal, because he's the most successful transfer portal guy of the transfer portal season. It is a season now, by the way, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, I think when the Auburn thing crashed, the rumors about Auburn crashed the season last year. As you know, they lost 4 out of their 5 last games when they started 7-0, and then the Auburn rumors started. But what it did is it just absolutely exploded the Grove Collective. They got organized. Walker Jones came over from Under Armour. He was the head marketing director over there from Under Armour for years and years, and they went from 3 million to a little bit over 12 million from the time that it went from 7 wins to 4 out of 5 losses. And now they're well over $20 million in the Grove Collective, and they're one of the top 3 collectives in the country right now. And so they've got that collective has really, really saved the Ole Miss program, and he's got all the money he needs now to do whatever he needs on the portal or high school classes. Obviously, he really likes that portal more than some coaches do, and I mean, it really energized the fan base, and he lit a match when he talked about he needed more money, and so that's not an excuse anymore.
Billy?
Well, I mean, my situation as an Auburn guy is I really wanted him to come be the Auburn coach, and Auburn has proven that they will round up whatever money it takes without needing much encouragement from any coach. And I believe in Rob knows Jimmy Sexton, but I mean, I think he's a bit of a puppet master. I think that he kind of played Auburn a little bit to get Lane a big raise at Ole Miss, and then he slid Hugh Freeze in at Auburn, who was also one of his clients, I suspect. So that's frustrating, but I mean, I think that the point that you guys made about he's got a cool factor and it factor. I mean, there's not too many schools that wouldn't take him as the coach, and as long as that is the case, he's going to be able to say, for me to stay here, this is what it's going to take, and he'll bring me enough money to keep me happy so I can get the players I want. He's a heck of a coach. He's got winner stamped all over him. I admire him from a distance, and I really wish he was the Auburn coach. Always have.
And Yancy, let me throw something at you. And Brendan and Billy and Dave and everybody listening to watch. Yancy's got a really cool perspective because you're there in Oxford. You got the Rebel Yell hotline, but you're a great writer, and you really are great at giving answers. Oxford is a college town. I've spent a lot of time in Oxford, and if you haven't been to Oxford, it is a special place. It's not the Delta technically because it's got hills. Because I love the Delta. We got a dog named Delta. I love it so much. But I'm thinking about Lane Kiffin. You see pictures of him with, I guess that's his girlfriend, whatever. He's got that cool factor, but he's been in the NFL. He worked for Al Davis and his son, Al Davis Jr., who looks like Lloyd Christmas. But he owns the team now. The staff that he has there, there's a lot of things going on, but the glue is Derek Nix from Etowah County, Gadsden, Alabama. He's been there, 25 years? That's kind of like Joe Witt was at Auburn for 25 years. There's a culture now at Ole Miss, and if they lose someone, they've immediately got 5 guys trying to take that spot. That's what I see happening now, Yancy.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like Saban. I've told you before, Saban's a resume builder, and that's kind of what Lane has built. And along with the portal and the NIL, that's really elevated Lane's stature in the college football. Is that Ole Miss can sustain losing assistants? They're usually going to lose half their staff every year. There's no continuity whatsoever outside of Nix. And heck, there's a strong rumor that Auburn's trying to hire Nix right now as the offensive coordinator, give him $1.8 million. So I wouldn't blame Nix if he took it. So we'll see what happens with that. But he loses coaches, and it just keeps on ticking, just like Saban. And coaches know that if you come coach under Lane, you're gonna probably elevate your career. So why not?
Yeah.
In my opinion, Nick Saban is the essence of science, the process. Do the work, outwork everybody else, out recruit everybody else. And Lane Kiffin is the essence of art. Be smarter, be more clever. Take advantage of NIL, take advantage of the portal. Do it from your boat. I think the trajectory of and the narrative of college football is swinging right in Lane Kiffin's direction and right in Ole Miss's direction, in my opinion.
I think that's a great analysis because there's, as much Lane tries to model his career after Saban in everything but that work ethic, right? I mean, not that he doesn't work hard, but when it's time to ease up, Lane's going to ease up. Where Saban's going to, as you said, try to outwork you 24/7. Lane's going to be more the artistic and work smarter. That's a great analysis.
Brendan Martin, question for you. You get to be around Urban Meyer and a lot of coaches. Do you see any similarities between Urban Meyer and Lane Kiffin?
No, I don't. Because Urban Meyer scares me a little bit. I mean, I've done, I don't know, 30 podcasts with him. He still makes me nervous because he's got that. And that's even when, but my dad wrote his book. He's just got the sense about him. Urban's a Phil Jackson guy. And I mean that by he's a psych major, right? So Urban likes to play that head game. I mean, and you see it somewhat in the Netflix documentary, and we've talked to him about that, where he'll give a guy a book, or he gets it. He pits guys to against each other to try to get average players to play above the raisins, right? I just see Lane has got I think he's got a foundation of that because of his background, because of his lineage. But I think he speaks more now to, I guess to answer your question, Rob, the only similarity is that he knows how to go out and win because of he's taken his lumps at Tennessee, everywhere else, where he's learned that he's got to win. You got to win with who you got on the field. And I think he's learned to fuse all of his experience and his lineage and everything else to kind of modify his approach to go and win, because he's proven it now time and time again. And here he is again, coming in and making a difference. And I think that's where Urban would struggle a little bit now, because he even says he's like, I couldn't keep up with this money and everything else. Lane's just got swagger, right? He just knows how to be cool. And Urban's like, F you, we're going to go have Bloody Tuesday on practice and kick your ass Wednesday and all this stuff. Yeah. But Lane seems to kind of have a modification. What was the leaked interview that we heard? Rob, you and I talked about this, where he was about
the kid that tried to sue him for $42 million for violating his mental health rights.
Yeah, he was kicking him off the team. He's like, "We don't need you. Go away." That was a very revealing leaked audio.
Well, here's another thing. Let me give Yancy credit, and that was September the 16th on that Saturday. We're driving. That's the day of the Tennessee-Florida game, and Heather Dinich, ESPN.com, she throws that bomb out there, kind of the drive-by media, with no follow-up. And I said, well, that's funny. I said, none of my people that cover Ole Miss, Yancy Porter, have said a word about it. That's what we deal with nowadays. I asked Yancy about it. Yancy, kind of recap that story, because I want you to say it, because I've got you on here. You're a lot better than me telling the story.
It's just a big nothing burger is all it was. You got a kid that doesn't show up for 3 months, doesn't answer phone calls, won't answer anybody's phone calls, won't answer spring practice, and shows up out of office, knocks on Lane's door, and with the tape recorder, his phone recording in his pocket, and says, "Hey, I'm ready to play." What do you think the coach is going to say? I mean, it was just really, really, really dumb. It'd got nowhere.
it just and it's just typical of what we see. 42 million. His mental health, right? Look, we all know mental health is important, but that was just a money grab. That was
well.
disgusting.
I mean, it's shades of Eric Ramsey from back in the day at Auburn. That Rob and I know well. A guy that shows up to meet with his boss and he's got a tape recording device in his pocket is a jerk. I mean,
and he tells him
that
he says,
answered the call in 3 months.
Yeah, and he says,
"What for 3 months?
What effing planet do you live on, dude? Get out of here! I don't want you."
But Lane didn't care. Lane didn't care. He didn't care.
Yeah,
that's what I love about it. He'd like he probably knew he'd still blow him up, because he got the right to. That's his old school, teaching in him. You know what I mean?
Goes back to his father.
Yeah, just like his father.
Football coach. Yeah.
And
he's unbelievable. He's got the, he understands the pulse right now, what appeals to these young players, but he's got credibility and lineage. And I mean, let's face it too. You're not going to do much in the SEC without an outstanding quarterback and good play calling to complement that guy and to attract other quarterbacks like that. And time again, he's making these quarterbacks at Ole Miss look pretty good. I mean, Dart looked freaking amazing. I mean, we didn't have anybody close to that on the Auburn team in the last 6 years or longer.
Well, I love Jackson Dart. He's got the Gene Simmons kiss, black stuff under his eyes. I mean, but I'm on the phone talking to Yancy one time on a Sunday night after I was on the phone with Yancy on
black
Sunday.
off the star.
Yeah, the day after Alabama played Ole Miss back in September, I'm on the phone with Yancy, and Yancy's going in some, the Quickie Mart with Apu from The Simpsons, and he's like going, "Hey, Dart, good game, way to hustle, man." Blah blah blah. He knows them all, but Yancy's also he's a trusted confidant. Check him out Monday nights, Sports 56 WHBQ, 6 p.m. Central, and also Super Talk Mississippi. Chuck Roundsville, Harry Harrison, Gary Darby, Gordon Ford, the whole crew there. And by the way, everybody likes to say, when they were in college, Mom, where are you? I'm at the library. I think the first ever library bar really is on the square in Oxford. I'm at the library. Yeah, you're damn right you are every night. That's why you have a 0.00, no grade point average. But Yancy, thank you so much for taking time. I hope your back gets better. Brendan, awesome. Thank you so much for your time. Billy from Brookhaven, next to Buckhead, not Atlanta. Dave Tompkins from the Low Country over in Beaufort, South Carolina, home of the Marine Corps Aviator Fighter Squadron, the Shamrocks. And hoorah! There we go. Hey, look, most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. We live in the greatest country in the history of the world. We are so blessed. Go out and help other people. You can't take it with you. George Strait said it best. They don't put luggage racks on hearses. Make it count every day. We will be back on Monday morning, bright and early. Got a great show. Looking forward to have
big week coming, Rob. Big week. Big announcements coming.
Yes, sir. And all kinds of stuff out there in the social media and whatnot. So as Carl would say in the movie Sling Blade, Carl, how about you a nice cup of coffee? It kind of wake you up. Coffee makes me nervous. I kind of wonder when you got good to eat in there. But anyway, we'll be back on. Billy, all of y'all, thank y'all so much. This is a blast. I'm trying to find the little icon for the end of the show button. But anyway, check us out live or listen at your leisure whenever you can. Looking forward to being back on Monday.
Like and subscribe, too.
Yep.
And subscribe.
GatorBaitMedia.com. We'll be back Monday morning. We're out of here.